Good morning. I'm former Secretary Edwin Lacierda from Pinoy's Administration.
Opay nga aga. Good morning. I'm former Governor Ben P. Evardone of Eastern Samar, and we are the Spokes.
From the parasols then to our group chats now, we'll give you perspectives from an insider's position standing behind the podium. And unnoted by the spokes, Malacanang stated that the rumors claiming Senator Bato de la Rosa has been arrested were an attention diversion tactic away from the ongoing impeachment trial. Mukhang ang totoo yan.
Ako, before Malacanang came out with that statement, yun na yung sinabi ko. I think this is part of, alam mo yung defense kasi, ang dami nilang gusto nila i-divert talaga. Not only the attention, but on the real issues ng impeachment.
Kasi alam mo, nag-umpisa yan sa text ng ating kapwa bilyonaryo host si Jimmy Bondoc. Sa kanya nag-umpisa yan eh. Tapos sinugunduhan ni Harry Roque na nagpaka-epal pa si Harry Roque. So talagang everybody just focus on that rumor na nahuli na si Bato.
At saka yung lumabas yan sa height ng issue ng confidential funds, di ba? Na kumbaga dinudurog na ng prosecution yung yung defense doon sa mga findings ng COA, notice of disallowance, and other issues, no?
Buti na lang kahapon sa spokes, in-interview ni Barry si Atty. Jun Torreon at dininay niya yung veracity ng report and said that if Bato was arrested, tatawagan niya si Atty. Torreon. Kasi abogado niya si si Bato.
Tama. Pero so, mayroon talagang ang tingin ko dyan, Sec. Edwin, part of a grand propaganda plan talaga nila eh.
Oo.
On how to attack the issue of impeachment. Kasi from the very start pa sa House, di ba? Ayaw na nila mag-attend, issue on technicalities, Supreme Court, etc. They don't want to get into the meat of the matter, eh, di ba?
But sa tingin mo, diversion yun? Malakas ang kaso ng confidential funds?
Tingin ko, kasi yan, issue na ng misuse yan eh. Saan napunta yung pera eh. Di ba sa mga survey, ang malakas talaga yung grave threat at saka itong issue ng confidential funds. Patas yung ill-gotten wealth, susunod pa, no? So talagang they want to dampen the spirit of the prosecution at saka yung public.
Ito naman si Jess Francis. Jess, check mo yung Tweety Bird mo. Nagkamali ka ngayon.
Oo nga. Oo nga.
But anyway, everybody, all the department agencies have denied the claim. And then the netizens have feasted on the rumors, coming up with funny memes. Maraming memes.
Oo nga. Pero actually, double-edged yun eh. Yung sabi nila na nahuli. Rin yan, banat din yan sa mga sa law enforcement agencies, sa intelligence community.
Which also reminds us, ano ba ating gobyerno? Nasaan na si Bato?
Oo, at saka iba pang mga high-profile fugitives, di ba? Nasaan
Anyway, tinanan natin. Anyway, also noted by the spokes, in a rare show of unity, the 21 active senators have signed a resolution urging a court to lift the TRO on the implementation of the 85 pesos minimum wage increase. Buti naman, at least ngayon, nagsama-sama ang ating mga senador. Ay, that was a good,
Oo. Pero first time yata yan na may nag-file ng TRO, no?
Alam mo, in all my life as a law student,
I was about to ask you that.
and a lawyer, ngayon na ako nakarinig, because maayos na nga itong may board nga that decide that.
Yes.
May tripartite wage board na nag-uusap. What is the ideal wage increase? Apparently, okay na yun sa management side. So, pinush yung 85 pesos. Tapos, nangyari itong court na to. Ngayon ko lang narinig. What? First time ko narinig yan.
Well, yun nga eh. What will prevent the others ngayon? Di ba? In other regions. So, somebody can also file a similar petition. Stop natin yan sa region 1, 2, other. Ganun, kung may mga wage increases na decision ng mga wage boards.
The problem is kasi the courts do not have the expertise to decide on what is the wage. Precisely, there's a tripartite wage board, the labor management and government, that decide which is the optimum amount that can be raised para sa ating mga workers. So, this is a very, very insidious attempt to destroyed that whole working mechanism na eh. Di ba? So talagang dangerous precedent ito eh.
Otherwise, bilisan niya ngayon. The court should now summon all yung witnesses and other documents and arguments, ganun, para hindi nakahang yan.
So last Tuesday, sabi nga, the Soldier will oppose the challenge sa court order. Dapat lang naman. Kasi nga, imagine mo, if you can unite a very fractious Senate, that means talagang everybody believes that that decision of this court was wrong. And dapat, this is now the legislative
Dapat tingnan din siguro ng
them.
Supreme Court yan. Kasi yung Supreme Court has, di ba, sorry power ba sila or ano?
Hindi, the Supreme Court will not act on it because nasa lower court pa.
Nasa lower court.
But this is the first time the executive and the legislative branches are in unison against the judiciary on this particular wage order, TRO. So we'll see. Sana maayos na lang. Sana
Matagal ng clamor pa naman ng mga manggagawa, di ba? Well, yung iba nga nagpo-protesta dahil utay-utay daw, di ba? Hulugan.
Kaya nga, 85 pesos, of course, may masasabi medyo mahal, but mahirap talagang, kasi ang alam ko dyan, there was a range from something to 200 pesos
To
yung
200,
wage.
oo.
So ang nangyari, I think that the tripartite wage board decided 85 is the amount that is acceptable to manage yan. Kasi madaling magdikta ng amount, pero paano naman yung mga manage, yung business side, Hindi naman lahat created equal eh.
Totoo yan. No? Yan nga ang problema talaga. Very sensitive kasi itong wage increase kasi on one hand, favorable sa labor sector. On the other hand, umaangal naman yung ibang maliliit na mga negosyante.
Exactly. Yung mga maliliit na negosyante, are they covered? Di ba may mga exempted na mga
In fact,
firms?
they were asking for a subsidy na nga from the national government kasi kami, sabi nila. So, pero I'm sure pinag-aralan mabuti yan eh, yung inflationary effect and others, no?
The problem there is we already have a mataas ang inflation natin, although bumaba, and then business is not necessarily doing well. Public infra is not very strong right now. So you're looking at ang daming problema, may oil issue pa.
And down yung public spending natin, consumer spending.
Public spending is down, consumer spending, I don't know, maybe it's also down. So, and then, mag-increase ka at this point in time. So, may concern ang management. But of course, the laborers, bugbog na nga kami sa taas ng pamasahe.
It's a very, very sensitive balancing act. Eh, no?
This is the problem. There's always the government always, it's a balance of interest, and it's always what is the better, to put it in a very, very difficult situation, what is the best bad decision that I can come up with.
Okay yan.
Diba? Kasi
Gusto ko yan.
interest.
Gusto ko yan yung
Kasi,
what is the best bad decision.
Because government is always confronted with many options. Diba?
Correct.
If the options are good, ang dali mag-decision.
Yes.
So you've got confronted with business. Bagsak, mababa ang negosyo. Ang workers, mababa ang sweldo nila, tumataas ang presyo. So it's a balance of interest. The question now is, how do you weigh all these interests, these concerns? So you have to come up with the best solution possible.
And that's really very hard. And that's very hard talaga.
And that's the role of
Yung
government.
conflicting interests, consumers, inflationary pressure, ang daming factors eh.
Kaya nga,
ang hirap niyan.
Kaya nga, sometimes you have to be clinical about it, objective about it, and sige na. So, I mean, this is a good decision, but and then comes in a TRO from the court which is totally coming from left field, which wala ka naman talagang jurisdiction dyan. Pumasok ka pa, umepal pa itong korte na to. But anyway, these are the headlines noted by the spokes. We'll have a recap on the highlights of this week's impeachment trial and what to expect next week when the spokes return after this short break. And the spokes is back. This week's impeachment trial did not disappoint and continues to capture the nation's attention. Joining us is one of the private prosecutors and the legal spokes of the House Prosecution panel, Attorney Benjamin Tolosa Jr. Hi, Jay.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for having me here.
Kala ko, Ben ang surname, nickname mo, tukayo tayo. Tinanong ko si Atty. Tolosa kung he's from Tolosa Leyte kasi mayroong town na
nga.
Tolosa.
Very famous town.
Oo.
You started your career with Accra, legal career with Accra.
Yes, that's correct, Sec.
Where did you graduate, by the way?
I'm from UST Law.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then your most celebrated career, I understand, was the Joseph Pemberton case?
Well, at that time, yes, when I didn't have my own firm yet. No? So, as we all know, it was highly publicized, no? Dahil, because
nga.
of the...
Panahon ni Tino yun eh.
Yes, no, because of the attention it naturally got, no.
Right.
It was also quite politicized in a way. If you could remember, dahil nga mahinit yung BFA dun sa usapan na yun, kaya talagang national attention is there. So, a good thing about that is kita natin yun, ang bilis ho nung takbo ng kaso because compared to normal cases, usually, it takes us years, no? Lalo na sa mga criminal cases, yun, expedited proceedings. We had hearings almost every week, sometimes 2 times a week, so dire-diretso. Yeah,
Walang settlement yun? I don't remember na eh.
No, there was no settlement. But he was eventually convicted by the RTC, but because we were able to establish lots of mitigating matters, no, that's why his sentence was reduced. So eventually, I think 6 years.
Oh wait,
no?
you defended Joseph Pemberton?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Oh, galing.
Oo, masyadong
Medyo
controversial na ano na yun. Na
Anyway,
case.
nandito na tayo sa impeachment.
Yes.
Paano ka pa naging member ng impeachment? How did you become a member of the impeachment?
Yes.
Well,
Well,
prosecution, sorry.
Yes. No, I was given the opportunity to serve. Actually, at first, when I decided, agreed to join, it was primarily for acting as private prosecutor. No, so yung spokes role, that's not what I originally signed up for. No, so during the course of
Sino humatak sa'yo?
siguro hindi no important kung sino yung main person, no? But eventually, during the discussions, I was asked, baka you would also want to do spokes duties, no? Sabi ko, well, I've never done this, no? Dahil nga, I'm sure as you know, sa mga trainings, very traditional law firms, we shy away from media engagements, unless the client asks for it and the case calls for it, we don't even grant interviews, no? So, di kami sanay dyan. Even dun sa Pemberton, as you've mentioned, kahit yung media exposure dyan, malaki, we rarely granted the interviews pag talagang kailangan na lang.
Were you asked to be also a member of the first impeachment trial? Had it pursued?
Not yet.
Wala ka pa doon.
This time ba, do you represent a law firm? Or?
No, it's in my personal capacity. So at that time, I guess they needed services of more litigators. No, I've been doing this for about a few years, shy of 2 decades. So,
But you're still you have a dual role as a part of the prosecution litigation team as well as spokesperson.
Yes, that's correct.
So kailan ka magpipresent?
I hope you'll understand. These are matters of strategy that we've agreed not to disclose yet. But
eventually you will.
Eventually, yeah.
Time siguro.
Dalawa na lang natitira.
Yes.
Di ba?
Dalawa na lang bang
Yeah, we're
unexplained
still
wealth.
in the middle of unexplained wealth. Then you still have, of confidential funds. Then we still have bribery, and then unexplained wealth.
Dalawa pa. Dalawang mabibigat pang issues.
So you're not at the current moment, but there's what happened in the Corona impeachment trial, the prosecution decided to stop at some point. Right now, feeling nyo tuloy pa rin.
That is an option that's available to us, that's expressly allowed under the pre-trial order. All we have to do is to inform the court and the other party. But for now, based on our preparation, so the assumption is we will continue to present evidence with respect to all of the articles of
So
impeachment.
tingin mo ba kung sa Article 1 pa lang, will it stand alone as a, will it suffice to convict the accused?
Well, of course, so that I will not violate the sub judice rule, no, I leave this matter to the ultimately to the appreciation of the impeachment court. But insofar as we're concerned, we're very confident with the evidence that we were able to establish.
Even for just one article alone.
Yes, but of course, as you know, yung threshold dito napakalaki ho, no? At least for now, the statement of the presiding officer is his understanding of the 2/3 requirement for the vote to convict is 16 votes.
Alright.
So, tingin namin dito, talagang we need to make sure that we'll be able to establish an airtight case para ho we'll be able to garner those required votes.
Just for the benefit of the non-lawyers, when you say sub judice, ano ibig sabihin nun? What is the parameters of the sub judice rule?
Yes, so under the rules on impeachment issued by the Senate, no, the parties, the councils, and the senator judges should not give disclosures and comments relating to the merits of the case. Now, may exemptions ho to recognized under the jurisprudence, no, which we believe apply also here, which is yung hong fair and accurate reporting. So, if these matters were already discussed in open court, total, lalo na ho dito, this is covered live, napapanood naman natin lahat.
Correct.
So, we can talk about them already. Kung nasabi na ho ng witness yan, or these were already discussed formally in our submissions, we can talk about them. But pang hindi pa ho covered,
Also,
ayan, no,
tatanungin
that's
kita,
the matters that we
sa
can
sinabi
discuss.
ng ni Lord Nakapunat, naniniwala ka bang scam talaga ito nangyari sa confidential funds? Nasabi na yan, so hindi ka na pwede mag-subjudice.
Tingin ho namin, no, again, sabi nga nyo, no, sa kanya naman na nagsabi, yan, no, may hallmarks of a scam, no, dahil nga, at least, no, again, I don't want to preempt the evidence that may be presented by the defense on this matter. Of course, I want to be fair with them. Kung meron silang ebidensya, hintayin din natin. But so far, sa naririnig natin, no, ano ho ba yung usually dun sa scam na sinasabi, meron kang hininging pera sa ganitong tao, sasabihin mo, gagamitin mo para sa ganitong purpose, no? Pero hindi mo naman ginamit doon.
Pero alam mo ako, Sec Edwin, Attorney Tolosa, may experience ako dyan eh. During my first term as governor,
Oo.
mayroon akong, kung hindi confidential fund, intelligence fund. Maliit lang. Maliit lang. I did not even, ano yung maximum dyan. No? Maliit lang. As you know, Samar are dati an hotbed of insurgency. No?
Correct, correct.
So yun, yung pera, gumawa yung proposal yung AFP ng counterinsurgency. Ano? Binigay namin yung pera sa AFP based on their proposal. Tapos, syempre, in-audit. Ang ano ng audit, dinisallow. Dinisallow. Pinagsoli kami ng pera.
Sinuli nyo?
Sinagsauli ako. Kasi notice of disallowance, may pinababalik eh. Otherwise, hindi ako makakasweldo, etc. Ganun. No? So, nagsauli ako. After that, hindi na ako naglagay sa budget ng intelligence fund, confidential fund.
Okay.
Oo. Kasi very hindi basta-basta na intelligence fund bibigay sa iyo, pipirma yung AFP or military or drug agency, mga ganun. Tapos okay na kasi naka-shield. No.
Yes.
There are guidelines that you have to strictly follow.
Yes.
Ako, talagang inadmit ko dahil nag-appeal ako, wala, na-deny appeal ko. I have no other choice but to return the money.
Which is
Buti na lang,
happening right
maliit
now,
lang.
no?
Yes.
Dito, siguro dapat isauli din yan, di ba?
Yes.
Kung it's a similar case.
Tama ho, sir.
Kasi may finality na yun sa akin eh.
Tama ho, yan nga ho ang sinabi no, ni Attorney Roderick Wamil, no, the representative of COA, ICFAO, which audits this kinds of funds, confidential funds to be exact. Sabi nga niya, may strict rules na kailangang sundan sa paggamit at pag-liquidate nitong confidential funds. Ito yung Joint Circular 2015-01. So sinabi nga niya, hindi dahil confidential funds, ibig sabihin ng pag-liquidate nito confidential. Hindi. Actually, nakalagay pa nga dyan, strictly comply with the auditing rules. No? So hindi nga sapat ang substantial compliance dito. Dapat strict compliance.
Correct.
So kaya nga dito, tulad dun sa nakita natin, ang dami niyang pinoint out ng mga deficiencies, inconsistencies
Not only,
in the documents that they
pinaggamitan,
submitted.
di ba, yung furnitures, travel expenses.
Yes, sir. Medicine, food items, yeah.
Sa akin nga, I gave it the entire amount to the military. Nag-ano pa ako doon, ang isa pang advice yung inano ng legal counsel namin, ay hindi naman akong humawak ng pera eh. So dapat hindi ako liable. But the guideline says that I am the head of the procuring agency of the agency.
Yes.
So ako talaga ang ultimate na ano eh. So wala akong recourse. Sinauli ko, nag-ipon akong pera, sinauli ko sa treasury.
Pag-usapan natin ang dynamics niyo sa loob. As the part of the House Prosecution, may public prosecutors, may private prosecutors. What is the dynamics? Di ba kayo nagkakabanggaan? And if in case may conflict, sino nagpiprevail?
Of course, the public prosecutors, no? Sabi nga namin, of course, we serve under their direct control and supervision. So, all we can do is give inputs, give insights, recommendations, but at the end of the day, they make the call, no? So, sa strategic, pati dun sa legal theory, everything. So, syempre, lalatag namin sa kanila yan. For example, recommendations, sinong witnesses that we need to present for this article, ano yung mga important facts na kailangan natin present. But after we present them, they make the call.
Pero may kwento ako narinig sa one of the public prosecutors, talagang nagma-mock trial daw kayo.
Yes, definitely, yes.
And before the start of the impeachment, how often were you doing mock trials? Yung mock trials, yung you simulate the whole thing.
Yes.
Oo.
Lalo na ho for the public prosecutors. Because we've seen people criticizing them, saying, bakit parang pinapasa naman na lahat sa private prosecutors? But that's not true. We're seeing it. Oral arguments, si Kong Shell Joke, no? Tapos, a lot of arguments also, si Kong Jinky. No? Tapos, she was the one who delivered the opening statement. No? Si Kong Noy Defensor also gave the opening statement for threats. Kong Laila was supposed to give it also for the confidential funds.
Pero in the trial proper,
Yes.
mas talagang, I mean, we must admit that the public prosecutors are Congress people.
Yes.
So at least they've not been practicing.
Yes.
So medyo a little bit kalawang on the side, and
Yes,
that's why.
That is true ho. That's why we had to do this very intense mock hearings. No? So, specifically for the public prosecutors, para nga ho, they've practiced, but it's been quite a while. Nakafocus na sila sa legislative duties nila. So, talagang we simulate it. Meron pang defense counsel, may upong presiding officer para masanay din sila dun sa objections, how to ask the right questions. No?
Ngayon ba na mayroon kayong as the trial progresses,
We continue to do that,
mayroon kayong adjustments na ginagawa?
Without in a way, yes.
Revealing your
The trial has moved into the morning till afternoon. So there's an occasion. Do you do a post-mort after every day?
Almost after every hearing. We meet and then we discuss, we do a debriefing. So to discuss what worked, what are the things that we could continue to improve on. And I think we're seeing the results naman.
This is a impeachment, but this is di ba, a political trial, no? Kayo ba as private prosecutor, pati siguro yung public prosecutor, yung team ninyo, ang nasa thinking ba ninyo, you address the issues doon sa mga impeachment justices or sa general public or both?
Yes, it has to be both. It has to be both. That's why we're doing our best to ensure that the public would also understand, not just the answers of the witnesses, the questions of the counsels, but even the legal arguments. Kaya pinipilit ho yan kung pwede in layman's terms, Tagalogin pa para maintindihan nila. Dahil diyan nga ho, it's sui generis. It's both legal and political. Ideally, ang understanding namin dito, kaya ho ito binigay sa Senado at hindi sa husgado na lang, for example, dahil yung mga senators, they represent the people. So dapat ultimately, when they reach their decision, of course, it's based on the evidence, guided by their conscience, and of course, the voice of the people whom they represent. Kaya importante din na maintindihan talaga ng publiko ito, masubaybayan nito, para marinig din ng senator judges when the time comes for them to hand down their decision on this matter, kung anong opinion at pag-husga din ng ating mga kababayan.
May mga observation kasi na yung defense is parang nasa court trial yung, di ba? Yung very legalistic No? Maybe that's part of their strategy, no? So, ewan ko kung paano nyo...
Ano strategy ni Lorna ngayon? Kasi si Ligutan was medyo very theatric. Si Lorna was very, very komedyante. I mean, kilala ko siya.
Yes.
So she's just funny and
Yes. But
chill siya. Chill
tama,
nga.
but as you've said, you know her, that's very natural. No, how she performed, that's really how she is. Parang it's not forced, it's
Matapang
not
ang mukha niya,
staged.
pero mabait si Lorna.
Yeah, so talagang nakita mo, pagbiro, it's appropriate, no?
It's sometimes...
Palabay ko tama yun kasi yung general public, yung iba pagka masyadong legalistic, lilipat na yan.
Kasi parang ngayong ginawa ni Lorna, parang nagpapatawa. So at least nakukuha kasi medyo masyadong serious. And my understanding is talagang I'm seeing also by the way in the social media, maraming output ang defense eh. So
That's true.
that's why si Lorna nagpapatawa. May nakakakuha ng attention, hindi masyadong seryoso pala.
That's true, Sir. No? Dahil ang challenge dito, we need to get the people's attention. We need to get them watching. Kasi, makikita natin, scrupulous quarters, they're not just spreading misinformation and disinformation campaigns. They're also trying to dissuade the people from even watching. No, wag yun ang panoorin, no, and then it's boring or whatever. So kaya nga importante dito, hindi lang tayo nakafocus dun sa paano natin pepresente ng mabuti yung merits ng case, but how do we do it in a way that we'll be able to convince people to stay tuned and watch it.
Kaya nga, sinabi ko kanina before you came in, di ba? Itong paglitaw na nahuli na Rosy Bato, sabi ko, I think it's part of a grand design nila talaga to veer away from the issue of impeachment. Lalo na yung issue ng yung confidential funds, di ba? Palagay ko, yan, calculated move yan on their part.
We can certainly understand where those sentiments are coming from. Yeah.
And what is the meaning of the OVP is the first agency na nakatanggap ng Audit Observation Memorandum?
Okay. I think to be accurate, no, I can't. I don't think the witness said that definitively. Meaning, sa lahat ng history, kumbaga, no, this is the first time that they received an AOM. But ang naging tugon ng, just to be accurate, ng witness regarding that, sa kanyang personal experience, hindi siya nakapag-audit ng any confidential funds from the Office of the Vice President, except dito kay Vice Presidente. Nagkaroon ng konting issue dyan, no? Parang pinapalabas merong inaccuracy dun sa statement niya. Pinakitaan siya ng 2014. But kaya nga ang sinabi niya, well, dun sa SARO, that proves na merong funds. But it does not prove that those funds were actually used.
Right.
No? Kaya sabi niya, insofar as I'm concerned, hindi ko yan na-liquidate. So meaning, or hindi ko na-audit. They didn't liquidate it. Kasi it's possible, as you know, baka hindi ginamit, sinuli yung funds.
Well, why did the prosecution say that even if OVP returns 400-something million pesos, it will not weaken the impeachment case?
Yes. Because for us, our position is that liability is separate from what we're discussing here in this impeachment proceedings. Kamukha nung kung meron din tumatakbo na kaso sa ombudsman, that talks about criminal liability, iba din ang pinag-uusapan dito. Ang pinag-uusapan dito is, was there a violation of public trust? Was there a culpable violation of the Constitution? So kahit na nagkaroon ng restitution, pero ang pinag-uusapan dito, pinagtaksilan mo na ba yung tiwala na binigay sa'yo ng bayan noong ginawa mo na, again, this is our allegation in the articles of impeachment. To be fair, let's wait for their defense, if they have any or their evidence. But so far as concerned, position namin, you violated the public trust. No? Dahil nga pinagkatiwala sa itong public funds na to, pero hindi ginamit ng wasto, nagkaroon ng fraudulent liquidation. So, kahit sinuli mo pa yan, tapos na. No? Na-violate mo ng law, you already betrayed the people's trust.
Okay. The next two prosecution witnesses are former disbursement officers by the Duterte, by VP Sara Duterte, and called by Congress in 2024 as witnesses. Will there be any new statements coming from them next week? But before you answer that, the spokes will return after this short break. And the spokes is back still with Attorney J. Tolosa. Before we go to the hanging questions, we'll acknowledge the comments and questions of our live audience. Comment from Bong Sanchez, parang suki ito. Sa mga small business owners, they could talk to their employees. We cannot afford the 85 pesos and if implemented, we will close. Yan yung sinasabi mo kanina, Ben. Comment from Rolando Rito, investigahin ang judge na naglabas ng TRO sa wage hike. Ako? Comment from Robert Manzano, Attorney Kapunan and Attorney Tolosa, look cool. Nakaabot ako sa live watching from San Jose, California. Comment from Sheila 12365, kapag sumalang si Attorney Tolosa, siya naman ang maging crush ng bayan. Inabangan ka na, Jay.
Thank you for the kind words.
From Sydney, all the more reason for the agencies allotted confidential funds. Okay, our hanging question a while ago is that you'll be presenting two disbursement officers of former VP Sara Duterte. What what do you think will the statements be mentioned?
Yeah, so again, not to violate the sub judice rule, what I can just say is just in broad strokes, no? They are, as SDOs, they're the ones who receive the cash.
SDO is what? Para just for
Special Disbursing Officers.
Okay.
No? So sila yung dinesignate to receive this confidential funds.
Yung mga SDOs, Sec Edwin, mga banded yan eh.
Tama.
Hindi sila pwedeng otherwise.
Yes. So nakita naman natin dun sa mga nauna nating dalawang testigo, yung mga land bank managers. So they said that these were withdrawn, no? By this pace, ito ho yung mga SDOs, itong bulto-bulto ng cash, 500 million, no? $500 million for the Office of the Vice President, 112.5 million for the DepEd. So, well, I'm sure there are very important matters that we could elicit from these witnesses. Since sila nga ho yung tumanggap ng pera, so let's hear them. Paano nila ginamit ito?
You're talking about a while ago about SDO, Special Disbursing Officers. Noong sa nag-viral, we're talking about social media, nag-viral yung ang debate ni Wamil at saka ni Senator Amy Marcos, no? How did you see that whole thing go?
Sabi ni Senator Amy, kanina mo pa ako inaaway.
I think
What was
without
the issue
due
there para
respect,
explain the whole thing?
No, I think without due respect to the good senator, hindi naman ho siguro intention na mang-away nung witness. He was just really trying to explain, no? Bigay niya ho yung answer na gusto niyang ibigay, no? Dahil medyo nahihirapan siyang ipasok yung sagot niya. But ultimately, nakasagot naman ho siya ng maayos. And sakto ho to dun sa na-mention niyo nga kanina. Sabi niyo nga ho, because you were the head of the office, head of the agency, sabi niyo nga ho, you had to return that funds, no? Yun mismo yung naging sagot ni Attorney Wamil kahapon. Sabi niya, I'm sorry, that's not entirely accurate. Hindi lang ang SDO ang may pananagutan dito. Nakalagay mismo sa batas, nakalagay mismo sa joint circular that the accountable officer also is the head of the agency. No? May basis ho yan eh. The Government Auditing Code, nakalagay ho doon. The head of the agency should be primarily and directly responsible for all of the funds and property pertaining to the agency that he heads. Pati po dyan sa joint circular, maliwanag din ho dyan na nakalagay dapat siya ho ang mag-supervise, directly supervise the use of the confidential funds, and she should also ensure that the liquidation process under the joint circular will be followed.
Ang tanong ko rito, no, kapag may notice of disallowance, as in this case, so dalawa ang sinasabing liable, the head of agency and the special disbursing officer.
Kasama pati yan, pati yung treasurer at saka yung accountant. So, lahat ng dinadaanan ng
ang
dokumento.
burden na magbalik ng pera, bale, itong dalawa?
Yes.
Itong dalawa, special disbursing at saka head of agency, that's why Ben returned the money. Pero ano ba yung liability na ang tawag natin sa law, solidarily liable sila?
Yes, that's my understanding.
So kapag hindi nagbayad yung special disbursing, yung head of agency, or silang dalawa magbabayad?
Well, silang dalawang magbabayad, but if one pays for it already, then...
Okay. So walang
that's it,
lusot talaga yung sinasabing head of agency should really primarily be responsible.
Yeah, so kahit
Kasi
na...
yun ang argument ko nung nag-appeal ako sa COA eh. Sabi ko, hindi ko naman hinawakan yung pera. The money, the fund, went directly to the armed forces of the Philippines. Sila ang nag-disburse counter-insurgency because it's what's a confidential fund, intelligence fund, something like that. Pero wala, sabi niya, hindi, because you are the head of the agency responsible.
Hindi ko maintindihan. As a senator judge, alam mo naman yung batas, it was laid clearly. I'm sure the legal team of the senators have already researched. Bakit ini-insist ni Amy at the very making appear na walang kasalanan si Sara at yung special disbursing lang ang liable?
Well, the intention behind the question, I hope you would understand that, I won't venture guess into that anymore. But I'll just emphasize that para sa amin, ang mahalaga, napaliwanag ng mabuti ng testigo namin, no? Na hindi lang SDO. In fact, ang head of agency ang merong direksyong pananagutan dito.
Okay. Next week, like I mentioned a while ago, you'll have two former disbursing officers. I think their names are Fajardo and Acosta. I know that you're not allowed to say anything, but just give us a brief description of who these two disbursing officers are.
Yes. So, Acosta was the one for Office of the Vice President. Mr. Fajardo was the SDO for the Department of Education. No? So sila, makikita ho din natin, no, magiging relevant. Tignan natin yung background ng mga tao na to. Bakit sila ang mga naging SDO? And ultimately, tignan natin paano nila papaliwanag, paano nila ginamit tong pera na to dahil sila nga nakatanggap nitong bulto-bulto ng milyones na to.
So, there are former disbursing officers allied with the former
Yes,
Vice President.
that's correct.
Will you consider them as friendly or hostile witnesses?
Definitely, they'll...
Hostile.
Yes, they're hostile witnesses.
So, pag hostile witnesses, once you establish hostile sila, you can ask now leading questions.
Yes, that's
Mas mabilis magtanong.
Yes.
So, you have these two witnesses, hindi mo pinipare kasi hostile
No.
They
But-
did not, you compelled them to testify for prosecution.
Yes, that's correct. But there were some hearings before the House of Representatives, no, where they already gave statements. So medyo may alam na tayo kung anong
So
sinabi
you're
nila sa
confident
hearings na
hindi
yan.
sila, they will not turn against the prosecution. Medyo klaro na kayo, yung kung anong sinabi nila sa House, yun din ang uulitin nila.
Yes, but I mean they can, of course, attempt to change what they said.
Correct.
No? But we have recordings of what they said before, and we could confront those with those statements.
Hindi ko na notice kung yung mga nag-receive ba or halimbawa disbursing officer ako, binigay ko kay yung piatos or whoever. Kung mayroon silang binigay na OR or acknowledgement receipts lang. Parang
Yes.
acknowledgement
So yun ho
receipts
yung
lang
issue
yata.
doon, no? Sila Mary Grace Piatos, for example. Acknowledgement receipt lang, no? Nakalagay doon 70,000 pesos for medicines. So yan ho ang sinabi ni Atty. Roderick Wamil. Ang problema dyan, since sinasabi mo, binigay mo medicine, dapat may official receipt ka. Kasi kung bumili ka ng medicine, nakuha mo to dapat to sa butika kung saan mo binili. So hindi magiging sapat ang acknowledgement receipt. No, at sinabi nga niya, wala naman sigurong confidential dyan dun sa isasabihin mo saan yung butikang pinagbilan mo.
How relevant are the questions of Senator Robin Padilla? Because he was saying na hindi mo alam ang situation sa insurgency, mga o sa BARM. How do you find those questions?
Kung iisipin ko, no, how they could be material and relevant to the case, siguro, baka ang pinupunto ho doon ay aware ka ba doon sa insurgency situation? Meron ba talagang para sabihin nyo, para questionin nyo itong mga confidential operations, no? But ang sabi nga ni Atty. Roderick Wamil naman dyan, ang audit na ginagawa nila, it's compliance audit and it's document-based. No? They're confined to the four corners of those documents. So titignan lang nila, hindi sila conduct ng sabi nga niya, hindi ho investigation, it's an audit. No? So hindi naman nila lalabas pa doon. Titignan na nila, may problema ba dito sa mga dokumento na sinubmit nyo? And based na sa dokumento, kulang na, may problema na. For example, mga dates, supposedly ginamit, natanggap yung pera nitong mga tao, December 2022, ang mga dates, napakarami, 2023. Pati nga ho yung mga ganon, pinambili ng gamot, and ano ho to, no? Payment of reward. No? In the form of medicine. Unang-una yun. Sabi nga niya, unang pagkakataon niya yan na nakakita siya, pinambabayad ng reward medicine. No? So to make matters worse, wala pang resibo. So, based dun sa dokumento, kita na niya, meron ng problema.
Alam mo yung sa akin, going back to my kasi parang we can draw lessons from my experience. If I memory serves me right, no? Yung AFP nga na pinagbigyan ng pera ng intelligence fund ko, nagbigay ng OR sa province. And yet, COA found...
Disallowed?
No, disallowed it.
Okay.
Ganon. Siguro sa disbursement na nila, ganon, siguro, or what.
Yes,
And ito, walang OR at all eh.
Wala OR at all.
Yes, that's correct.
So, we're still in Article 1.
Yes.
Ilan pang, if you're allowed to say, ilan pang testigo ang inaasahan nyo isasalang?
We have around 15 listed witnesses. No? But similar to what we did with respect to the grave threats, no? We trimmed it down, no, substantially, yung list of witnesses namin doon. Matatanda natin, 3 witnesses lang present namin doon. We waived the presentation of 6. So ganun din dito, as we proceed, no, to present the next witnesses, assess namin yung mga sumusunod, kailangan pa bang iupo yan or pwede nang we can dispense with that. And ang intention naman talaga namin dito, as much as possible, pabilisin ho. No? And of course, without sacrificing our ability to properly and effectively present our evidence. No? But syempre, alam din natin yung reality of the situation. Hindi dapat hintayin magkaroon ng impeachment fatigue. No? Hindi naman hunod yung mga tao pag masyado na nag-drag to. So, as much as possible, gusto nating pabilisin.
Kasi dito nga, di ba, yung dalawang audit witnesses ninyo, parang halos pareho yung testimonies nila eh. Parang ni-reaffirm lang yung isa eh. Parang ganun.
Yes, and to just give clarity on that, matatandaan ho natin, si Atty. Wamil, at some point in 2024, he left ICFAO. Kaya nga sabi niya, may mga some AOMs, he was the one who drafted and issued them. May mga iba, he drafted them pero hindi na siya yung nag-issue. Kaya tinatanong siya about doon sa anong naging tugon after ng AOM, hanggang umabot notes of suspension, notes of disallowance. Sabi niya, I don't have personal knowledge anymore. Dito ho papasok ang susunod na testigo natin. So siya na magpapaliwanag doon sa magbubuo ng kwento dyan.
So kung may kulang, yun ang tatahiin.
So far, ano ang pinamalaking ebidensya that you've presented in your opinion? And meron pa bang mas malaking ebidensya for Article 1?
Yes. Sa akin ho, siguro, sasabihin ko yung mga pinaka-importante is nakita natin napakadaming dokumento na pinirmahan mismo ng Vice Presidente. No? She was certifying that those funds were used for confidential purposes. No? Yung, siyempre, dapat yan. Supposedly, it presupposes, pasok yan dun sa allowed purposes under the joint circular. But sinasabi niya, she's accountable for those funds. No? And she's saying that the use of those funds were necessary. At so it was approved by her. So mahirap nang sabihin talaga na wala siyang kinalaman dito sa mga funds na to. With all due respect, no, pwede na hintayin natin kung anong magiging paliwanag nila. But sa amin, those documents speak for themselves. Pangalawa, clear na din, no, inisa-isa kung ano yung mga naging discrepancies, problems, issues with the way that the Office of the Vice President and Department of Education liquidated these funds. And ultimately, I think napakahalaga nung na-point out nung witness natin, no, na nakapaloob mismo dyan sa joint circular na yan. If you fail to liquidate, no, the head of the agency, being the accountable officer, if you fail to liquidate despite demand to liquidate, that's prima facie evidence already that you use those funds for personal use and benefit.
Taga Pampanga ka, sabi mo,
Yes,
ang galing
yes,
ng Tagalog nito, masabi ko lang. may tanong ako. The whole thing about Article 1 is about numbers and documents.
Yes.
Ano ang gusto mo maging takeaway ng general public sa Article 1?
Tandaan natin, no, yes, lagi natin naririnig confidential funds, confidential funds. Ultimately, tandaan natin, these are public funds. Pinagkatiwala ito ng bayan dito sa pangalawang pinakamataas na lingkod bayan natin, ang Vice Presidente. So, napakabigat ho nung pananagutan niya dyan. So, dapat mapatunayan ng mabuti na ginamit ito para sa tamang mga kadahilanan.
Okay.
No? At mapakita na hindi ito, dahil nga ang evidence dyan ay kapag hindi mo na-liquidate, ibig sabihin ginamit mo yan, binulsa mo yan. So, dapat mapakita niya na hindi. Kung hindi niya mapapakita yan, napakaliwanag. Pinagtaksilan niya yung tiwala ng bayan sa kanya.
Okay. Mag-tough question tayo. May tough question. Ay, hindi pala. May from Bong Sanchez pala. Si Attorney Tolosa, what percentage can you rate that VP Sara will be impeached according to evidence?
I hope you will understand, no? Siyempre, baka hindi nyo na ho ako makita sa susunod na paglilitis, no? Kapag sinagot ko ng diretso dyan. But what I can just say is we're very confident with the evidence that we're presenting and that we will continue to present. And of course, we hope, no? And we trust that the senator judges at the end of the day will vote, no, on her guilt or innocence based on the evidence presented again by both parties.
No, parang follow-up question dun sa
Tough question ka na.
viewer natin. No? Pero tough question na to. Anong tingin mo dun sa 16 votes na required?
Gustong-gusto ko talagang i-discuss, no, kung ano ang legal position ko dyan. Perhaps at a different time, pwede ho nating himayin yan. Pero sa ngayon, unfortunately, I can't really discuss it, no, dahil ang usapin na yan, hindi pa nabigyan ng oportunidad, no, both parties, kahit kami na ilatag before the impeachment court, ano yung ang legal position namin dyan. But what I can say ho is ito ho, no? Parang kami, ang focus namin from the start, no, we've never engaged in vote counting. Ang focus namin, sisiguraduhin namin, prepresenta kami no, ng matibay na ebidensya para kung paano man nila interpret yan. Ultimately, is 16, 14, 12, we will be able to secure it by establishing an airtight case.
The next half question. In a real court setting, a refusal of the accused to appear can be a basis for an issuance of a warrant of arrest. What's your take on VP Sara not appearing?
Well, okay. To be fair, at this point, there's no subpoena yet issued by the court to require her. No? Because although initially, si Atty. Kapunan, nasabi niya yan, no, she inquired nung narinig namin ba if is she in the building, no, because that's one of the options that we're considering. Patawag siya sa our own witness, but we have not done that. So, hindi pa naman siya compelled, no. And dun at the start din, nung nag-issue ng order ang court, no, to appear, nakalagay naman ho doon, personally or through counsel. And she chose the second, no. But regardless, sa amin, we also hear the sentiment of the public na napakaliwanag. No? There are very serious accusations leveled against her in these impeachment proceedings. We're talking about unexplained wealth consisting of financial transactions worth 6.7 billion pesos. Dito ho dun sa confidential funds, these are worth 500 million pesos, Office of the Vice President, 1.12, Department of Education. No? Napakaseryoso. Even the assassination plot against the president, no, or the agreement to assassinate the president, which he admitted publicly. So, dapat, kaya nga narinintindihan natin, gusto naman kababayan natin, sagutin mo ng diretsahan ito, no? And kung hindi niya sasagutin yan, hindi siya haharap, again, that's her call, but that's also a decision that she will have to explain to the public. Bakit tayo niya harapin ng diretso?
Next up question. Parang follow-up din ito sa earlier question. If she decides to attend, kanino magmamatter yan? Defense or prosecution?
First of all, we'll welcome that. No, but we will see. Of course, if they will, titignan ho natin, kailan? Is it because they will present her as their own witness? Then we look forward to the opportunity to cross-examine her. No, dahil nga, ultimately, lahat ho ito. No, madaming bagay dyan. Napaka-importante na magiging kasagutan at paliwanag na bibigay niya.
Kayo ba hindi siya witness ninyo?
Pwede ho. No? Sabi nga ni Atty. Kapunan, that's an option. But we have to clarify, that's quite novel. No? Kasi dahil sa criminal cases, you cannot call a witness. No? Dahil meron siyang absolute right against self-incrimination, hindi mo siya pwedeng ipatawag as testigo. Pero pag umupo siya voluntarily, no, kapag presenta na ng sarili niya as sarili niyang testigo, pwede namin siya i-cross-examine. Ngayon, ito, strictly speaking, it's not a criminal case. So, she's not an accused, she's a respondent. No? So, pero wala pa tayong precedent dyan. Doon sa
So
mga,
you're saying yung right against self-incrimination will not apply?
Our position is it could not be absolute, no?
Okay.
Not to even refuse to take the stand. Right? So, yan ang position natin. But we don't want to preempt the decision the impeachment court may make on this matter since wala pa naman ho dyan.
Sige, last tough question. If the defense can prove that VP Sara did not personally benefit from the confidential funds, would that still constitute as an impeachable offense?
Well, that's at this point, syempre, speculation yun, no? But kung titignan natin, kung mapakita nila na hindi siya nag-personal benefit. Pero, madami hong hurdles yun, ano? Dahil nga, ang law mismo, sinasabi na niya, prima facie evidence na yan, na ginamit niya yan, no? Ngayon, kung hindi niya ginamit yon, no, at na-liquidate nilang mabuti, of course, let's be fair. Kung lumabas pala, nagkaroon lang ng misunderstanding, then posible yun. No? But sa ngayon, sa ebidensya nakikita natin, nothing points to that.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Atty. Jay.
Maganda yung wrap up natin.
Dito,
for the
first and
week.
last time mo rito.
Looking forward to that second
Thank you,
chance.
Jay. Thank you.
The impeachment trial will not only test the evidences and testimonies presented, but also the strength of our democratic institutions. I'm former Secretary Edwin Lacierda.
I'm former Governor Ben P. Evardone,
And we are the Spokes.